Welcome to Scary Stories Files. If you enjoy real-life survival horror and true stories that end in tragedy, please like, share, and subscribe to Scary Stories Files. On Saturday, March 11th, 1967, a small private plane lifted off from Portland, Oregon, bound for San Francisco on what was supposed to be a routine family trip. The flight should have taken only a few hours. Instead, it would become one of the longest, most heartbreaking survival ordeals in aviation history. The plane was a single-engine Cessna, owned and piloted by a 59-year-old man who loved flying and the outdoors. He was traveling with his wife and teenage daughter, hoping to reunite with family waiting in California. The pilot was careful, experienced, confident. But confidence means very little when the sky decides otherwise. About halfway through the flight, weather conditions changed without warning. Clear skies vanished, clouds thickened, visibility disappeared. Within minutes, the plane was swallowed by a violent mountain storm. Snow, ice, wind. The kind of storm that erases the horizon and leaves pilots flying blind. Ice began forming on the wings. The wind pushed the plane sideways. Landmarks vanished. With no clear view of the ground and no way to accurately judge position, the plane drifted miles off course, straight into rugged, unmapped mountain terrain. Then suddenly a mountainside emerged through the whiteout. There was no time to turn. The pilot had one choice. He attempted an emergency landing directly onto the slope. The impact was violent, metal twisted, glass shattered. The plane flipped and came to rest against the trees. And somehow they survived. All three occupants were alive, but survival was only the beginning. The plane was wrecked. The radios were destroyed. Snow poured through broken windows. They had no idea where they were. The pilot was badly injured, broken arm, crushed ribs, severe back pain. His wife had a broken wrist, a broken ankle, and signs of a head injury. Only their teenage daughter escaped without broken bones. And worst of all, their survival kit was not on board. No emergency beacon, no rifle, no flares, no extra food. Only a handful of snacks meant for the flight. Outside, snow continued to fall. Inside the plane, cold crept in relentlessly. By the next morning, frostbite had already begun. They rationed what little food they had, a few sandwiches, some candy, vitamins. They stuffed clothing into broken windows to slow the wind. And they waited. Hours turned into days. Back in California, when the plane failed to arrive, a search effort began. Aircraft, ground teams, volunteers, but no one knew where to look. The flight path stretched hundreds of miles, and the storm had blown the plane far from its intended route. Search planes flew overhead again and again, but the wreck was hidden beneath trees, buried by snow, in terrain too dense to see from above. Inside the wreck, hope faded quickly. After several days, their food was nearly gone. The pilot knew what that meant. Someone had to leave. Despite his injuries, he made the decision to try. He wrapped himself as best he could and stepped into snow deeper than his chest. Every step was agony. Every breath burned. He shouted back to his wife and daughter as long as he could. Then his voice disappeared into the forest. He never returned. Mother and daughter were now alone. Days became weeks. Snow melted and refroze. Clothes stayed wet. Hunger became constant. To pass time and to hold on to hope, the daughter began writing in a notebook found in the wreck. She recorded the weather, the days, her thoughts. She circled dates on a calendar, counting time in survival. She wrote about birthdays, about food she dreamed of, about being found. Outside, storms came and went. Inside, their strength slowly faded. After more than a month, they were too weak to keep writing regularly. The final entries spoke of exhaustion, of being soaked, of not knowing how much longer they could last. Then the writing stopped. The search efforts were eventually called off. Months passed. Seasons changed. It wasn't until the following autumn that a hunter stumbled upon the wreck by chance, hidden deep in the trees, nearly invisible. Inside, he found the remains of 2 people and the notebook. The diary revealed everything: how long they survived, how hard they fought, how close rescue truly was. Years later, the pilot's remains were found separately, only a short distance from a road. He had made arrows from branches, hung clothing in trees, left signs meant to be seen. He was so close. The tragedy shocked the nation, and it changed aviation forever. New laws were passed requiring emergency locator beacons, devices that could have led rescuers to the crash within hours. Because of this story, thousands of lives have since been saved. A family was lost, but their suffering was not meaningless. If you like real survival horror stories like this, and want more true events that remind us how fragile life can be, please like, share, and subscribe to Scary Stories Files. Because the scariest stories are real.